Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting for Bedford Township for June 7th, 2022. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, if Pastor Steve Hobbins with Lewis Avenue Baptist Church could open us up in prayer.
Be glad to. I know we all need prayer, and at least I know I do. But let's go to the Lord together. Father, thank you for this meeting tonight, and thank you for allowing us to come together and for minds that are trying to be good stewards of our township and seek wisdom. And Father, we'd ask that you would guide our minds and our thoughts, and we ask that you'd watch over us, protect us, and thank you for the freedoms that we have. And we ask this blessing now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Okay. Got the public hearing. Look for a motion to open the public hearing for approval of the 2022-2023 general fund budget.
Motion to open the public hearing. Support.
Okay, motion is supported. Just call the roll.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. At this time, if anybody from the public would like to speak, the public hearing. Okay, seeing none, I look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close public hearing. Support.
Okay, motion in support of Mr. Gore. Discussion. Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Mr. Miller, would you like to come on up? I would like to note that through the process, the last couple months, it has been smooth, easy, very clean and clear, and it's a lot of what Mr. Miller has put in place with the new programs and the new monitor Ms. Hirschberger got in the room. It's been a great process and totally different from years past, and thank you very much for that. So go ahead, the floor is yours.
All right. That's what I want to start with some thank yous. First off, I'd like to start to say thank you to Nancy for ordering the budget supplies and her new binders. Those really worked out well. And also for solving the algebraic equations we ran into. She's got some smart family members. For Angie for putting all the binders together and preparing all the documents for each meeting. For Rick and Chaz for the spreadsheet enhancements. Thank you. Department heads for providing good initial budget amounts. So we had a very good start. All the elected officials for having good quality discussions. So we got a lot accomplished and we have a nice high quality product. And of course, it's already just mentioned, Trudy for the big screen monitor. Made a huge difference. Thank you. With that, are there any specific questions about the budget? I know we had some very good conversations.
I'll just make a quick couple comments too. I mean, again, since day one, Bob, we asked you when you came on board to dive into this and make the budget process especially very easy for us. As Paul stated, very clean, very easy, good discussions by the board at these meetings. But with what was here and any tweaks and enhancements that the board requested, it just made it so easy so we could see anything on a couple clicks of your mouse, and it changed everything for us. We could see it. Excellent job. One of the things that I'm sure somebody else would probably mention it too, but our goal was really to target having 50% of our general fund left in our budget after expenditures. We hit the 49.12%, so pretty darn close to what our goal was. So I have to commend the board, my fellow board members, everybody chimed in here and cut what we needed to cut and tweaked or added where we needed to, and we're hopefully sitting in a good position depending on where this economy goes. If it goes south, hopefully we've got ourselves well protected.
Okay. Any more comments? Yeah, I agree with that, having the 50% general fund budget. I don't totally think it's necessary, but the board does as a whole. It's a lot of money, over $2.5 million for a rainy day fund. So yes, we're well prepared for, situations where, we could tap into that. So, okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bob.
Yep.
Are we doing A and B separate?
Yeah, two separate. Yeah, I'll look for a motion.
Don't go far.
Well, if we're doing, as far as questions go, I guess.
Well, if you have any
We're
more
doing
questions,
A and
now's the
separate.
time for that. Yeah.
Yeah, my questions are for sewer O&M and for building department fund, office supplies. On page 43 of the actual resolution, 43 and 45, office supplies is up $1,500 higher than discussed, and office supplies for the building department is $2,000 higher than that was discussed. I just don't know.
I would have to go back and check our notes from the last meeting. But to the best of my knowledge, I don't think we changed anything since our last meeting. But,
I have mine from the last meeting.
oh, good.
I don't see it there. Open this one.
It's on sewer roll.
No, I know, but I thought we were working on A.
Trudy, if it helps out, I'm showing page 63 is the computer monitor upgrade for 1,500 in
Right.
sewer O&M.
That's
Right.
that's in that version, which is not the, I don't know, if those match, this and that match, but that's not the, from the last meeting.
43.
Right.
43.
I think you're on to something, Rick. The information technology line where we budgeted for the complete computer upgrade, the sewer department and the building inspection department were in its own funds. It's not going to come out of the general fund.
Right.
So it had to come out of office supplies?
Yes. Because sewer is its own entity. It had to come out of there rather than our general fund.
So it just got moved. It's
It got
not
moved.
an additional.
It
Just
was
got placed in the
moved.
right spot.
From
Was
one
that
bucket to
discussed?
another.
In a budget meeting?
I don't think it was discussed outright, but on the spreadsheet.
I think it was discussed in the budget meeting that the sewer is its own entity, so things would have to come out of different funds. But I don't think it was specific that this specific item had to come out of a different fund. It was just kind of more a general.
I was just lining up my, all of my notes from budget meetings to the resolution, and those numbers were both respectively $1,500 and $2,000 off on, for office supplies, which I just don't know. It's not the biggest deal in the world. I just don't know that it was discussed in a budget meeting.
Yeah, I see where he's. So if we go to the other line items. that
Were you good with it now the way it is?
lower.
What do you mean?
This one.
Are you
should be
good with
lower.
what he's saying? How it had to be moved into the department? That line item.
I mean, Not necessarily.
Could you explain it again, Bob?
Yes.
I mean, I understand. There's a difference. There's a difference between understanding the situation and being cool with it.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I'm not really, I think I
I'm
was,
checking one other item before we move on.
Well, why don't we do this? Let's move with the motion for A, and then we'll get into B, because then we'll open it up for public comments for that as well. I'm going to look for a motion for approval of the 2022-2023 general fund budget.
I make a motion that we approve the 2022-2023 general fund budget.
Support.
Okay, motion in support of Ms. Janazek. Discussion? Any more? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
nay.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Prony?
Aye, and the motion passed 6-1. Okay, item B, approval,
Public hearing.
need a motion to open a public hearing for B, approval of the 2022-2023 special funds budget. Look for motion.
Motion to open a public hearing for special fund budget.
Support.
Okay, motion in support of Mr. Gore. Discussion? Okay, could you call the roll?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Prony?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Okay, any comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, I look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close public hearing.
Support.
Okay, motion in support of Ms. Janazek. Any more discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Prony?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Mr. Miller? Okay,
Okay, I guess
continue on with B. Is there any more discussion or thoughts on it?
If no one else says anything more. My concern is just
Ms.
things,
Hirschberger?
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
my concern is just numbers in a resolution not being accurate to, I keep pretty good notes during budget meetings, and I have nothing for either of those being different. They're consistent throughout the whole process, and then they're different only on these two documents.
Ms. Hirschberger?
So I have notes that we talked about it in general, not specifically that sewer O&M items would be broke down different. And if you look at information technology, that number was higher, and then it was lowered due to the amount being taken out of it. And
The number,
put
it should have
over.
been lower, it should have been lowered $4,000 more, and it was only lowered, what was it? It was lower, it was about an $1,800 difference. It should have been lowered more. I don't have specifics, the details either as what we were lowering it, but we were supposed to have lowered it $4,000. I didn't want to be nitpicky about that. The other two were my concern. And if I'm wrong, I'm like, if it was discussed and I'm wrong, I just don't remember it being discussed. I don't have anything that shows it was discussed or that it should have that those numbers were different than the numbers that.
Well, this is one reason I think we should start recording our budget meetings in the future and have them in this room, so everything is recorded to detail, and we can go back and check things. So, I think we should.
Like I said, I don't think it's the biggest deal. I mean, you're talking $2,500 on a very large budget. It's not the biggest deal in the world. It's more the principle to me that numbers were, like I said, numbers on this resolution being different than numbers from, like, if there was any reason for it to have changed.
Bob, would you do
different
some
story.
research after this meeting and get back with the board
Well,
members?
it's clearly, we moved the computer upgrade. When we originally talked in the budget meeting, the computer upgrade document
30.
showed the top half was all of general fund, the bottom half was broken out between sewer and building inspection department. What probably wasn't clearly identified is the sewer and the building inspection department had to go into those specific funds. And I think during the budget process, when we throw it up on the monitor, that stage wasn't done. I just didn't move it in time. That's, I'm guessing, what happened. But the numbers should be pretty darn close. I know we do have some calculations in there to cover contingency. So that could be a small variance, moving it from one fund to the other.
So we have a 66-page budget covering almost $5 million, $4.9 million. And we're with a 49% fund equity.
Joe, you got to come closer to
Oh.
your mic.
And we're talking about $3,500. Hey, I know we've been through a lot of budget meetings. Kudos for you for keeping great notes.
Some
and
of us
going
have.
back and through. Why wasn't this addressed last week or something like that? Send an email to Bob. Hey, we got this. I'm seeing a difference of $3,500. Can you explain that to me?
That's what the meeting's for.
I'm ready to move on.
Me too.
Well, some of us takes budgets and budget meetings seriously. We attend them and put time into them.
Okay. All right, any more questions? No, and Craig, I appreciate your great notes and I appreciate your thoughts. And I do agree with Craig to some extent.
It's not discussed in a meeting.
We
Numbers
can.
should not be different.
There's things that can be taken care of outside of meetings, and let the board know, hey, this is what happened. So there's a good understanding. But I'm also for total transparency. We can just discuss it here. But okay, nobody has any further questions? Okay. I look for a motion.
Go ahead. I'll make the motion to approval of the 2022-2023 special fund budget.
Support.
Okay, motion and support of Mr. Bruning. Discussion. And I would like to say I do appreciate the people that did take the time to come to these meetings, because not everybody did. And it takes a lot of time out of everybody's day, and they're in the evenings, so I do appreciate that. So, okay, call the
Actually,
roll.
they're not in the evening. They're during work hours when some of us actually have jobs.
Yeah. Well, when a board emails you and you don't respond, that's your issue. So, okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek,
Aye.
Mr. Montry.
Nay.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Proney.
Aye, the motion passed 6-1. Thank you, Bob. Really appreciate it. Okay, item 2, approval of the agenda. I would like to add, let me find it here, to the agenda, discussion of 2 holidays, June 8th, June 19th, and Columbus Day, October 10th, for discussion. So I add that as item 8G. Okay, other than that, I look for a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition.
I'll support.
Okay, motion and support of Mr. Gore. Any more discussion? Could you call the roll?
Ms. Jandisek,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Mr. Montry.
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Proney.
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Okay, item 3, the consent agenda. The agenda committee recommends to approve and place on file A, minutes of the May 17th, 2022 regular meeting of the Bedford Township Board. B, the resignation of Zachary Carter from the Bedford Fire Department effective immediately. Look for a
To approve
motion.
the consent agenda.
Okay.
Support.
Motion and support of Ms. Janczak. Discussion. I just want to say a quick note on Zachary Carter. He took a leave of absence and didn't come back, and that was in 2021. So that's the reason. So, okay. Just call the roll, please.
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek,
Aye.
Mr. Montry,
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Mr. Gore.
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Proney.
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 4, presentation, future of Indian Creek Park. Chaz Mann, Park Commissioner.
Good evening. I know most of you. For those of you who don't, Chaz Mann, Park Board, the liaison for White Park and Indian Creek. Okay, I got some notes here. Park Board has been working really hard. We've made some great improvements over our parks. The one issue that we've had is Indian Creek. Currently, it is owned by the schools, leased by the township, overseen by the parks, used by community ed, and maintained by township and school maintenance together. That's a lot of neglect for one piece of property. Right now, the simple operating expenses are the Parks Department pays for porta-johns and dumpsters. The township pays for mowing, and that's really all we put into it. Not a big cost into it. The current lease agreement, which is primarily for the walking trail, expired June 6th of 2019. What we wanted to do is we wanted to ask you to reconsider the status of the lease. We would not put a new roof on a rental house, and we wouldn't buy furniture for a hotel room. Indian Creek needs more investment than is financially responsible from the people who don't own it. Currently, there are two paths that we see moving forward. One is to allow the lease to remain expired and give the property back to the schools. The second is to purchase the property in its entirety and give it to the parks to manage. We are talking all the fields, all the diamonds, the stadium, the parking lot, the woods, the driveway, everything. Parks Department hasn't been a part of it, but I understand there may have been discussions between the township and the school about purchasing part of it. Purchasing just the infield would amount to buying an island in the middle of a swamp. It may be great once you get there, but you've still got to go through a whole lot of hooey to get to it. I've had meetings with Dr. Schultz. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. He's a very smart man. He's made the comment several times that he's in the business of educating kids and not mowing the grass. He should sell it to someone who is in the business of mowing grass, and Pat loves to mow grass. The park's vision for Indian Creek, the flat fields out back on the east side of the property, currently the township does not have any flat fields. There's nowhere for any of our football programs to practice. There is nowhere for soccer programs to practice. There is nowhere for lacrosse programs to practice that the township owns. We would like to roll, fertilize, weed kill, and then regularly cut those back fields. We would like to redo 6 and produce 6 well-maintained softball and small ball diamonds. They were built 30 years ago with little upkeep since. We would like to level and restore the infields, fix the backstops, add baseline fences for safety, and eventually add dugouts. The stadium, we would like to demo the bleachers, fix the fences, irrigate the fields, and add it into our reservation system for the growing sport of soccer and lacrosse to use. The woods, there are very few areas of forest left in the township for the public to go and enjoy. Bringing them into our park system would allow us the ability to mark and maintain the trails, monitor and address invasive species, and promote a healthy ecosystem on the pond. The parking lot and driveway needs to be graded and stoned properly with the right material, not softball size used asphalt. We would require the school, in whatever purchase agreement we make, to pave up to their gateway. Finally, we also envision a 3-pen dog park on the south side of the stadium. Each pen would be approximately 1 acre, 1 for small dogs, 1 for large dogs, 1 for rest, and then we would rotate it. That's what we've got. That's it.
Okay, any comments or questions, Mr. Bruning?
I got input in what you with Carl here also, because I talked to Carl Schultz also. Carl's only interested in selling the northernmost part.
Then I think we
So
should give it back to the
and correct me if I'm wrong, Carl, but you want to keep all the land directly behind and around the bus garage, because that'll give you total land ownage all the way back to the schools. So you're only interested in selling the northernmost part. Okay. Yeah, so your vision just crapped out.
Yeah, well, if you buy just that center portion, just the portion,
Sorry.
we're not gaining anything. We're
No.
buying the problem. We still have to drive by a bus garage that looks like a junkyard. We still have to go across parking lot that looks like a minefield. We're not gaining anything. All we're doing is buying a problem.
Yeah, and then we'd have to
Then-
maintain
then-
100% of it
Correct.
instead of just
Correct.
part of it.
Right now, we're just doing the bare minimum. If we own it, then we're doing the bare minimum, but you're still driving through a disaster to get to it. And for everyone who says, oh, well, everybody should just work together and we should all hold hands, how many times have you mowed your neighbor's grass in the last year? How many times, I get it, but you're only going to put so much effort into something that isn't yours. And that's where we're at with Indian Creek. We field a tremendous amount of calls. I'm embarrassed of the condition of it. I have been for as long as I've been a resident.
Well, right now, it's the best looking park we have.
It's really not.
Yeah,
If you haven't been out there in the last week, the ball diamonds look brand new. The grass is probably the best cut. I mean, it's really looks great.
Unfortunately, I don't have control of the maintenance department, so I don't get to funnel them where they need to go to best utilize their resources. But
You got to speak. You got to speak into the mic.
I would disagree with that then.
Okay, that's good. Mr. Steiner?
So you said that the township is leasing.
Correct.
Let me just give a clear understanding of what's going on with. Okay,
Because this is,
it is an absolute mess of what we have. We have an agreement an inch thick from the 90s of when the ball diamonds were put together. Okay, and a bunch of businesses came together and built the ball diamonds throughout the community. Okay, then we have an agreement, like he said, that expired, and that agreement is expired. Okay, the one from the 90s that expired, that we can't find a signed contract with.
That's
So
the thick one.
a specific one from that was 96 or 2001.
The one that you're talking about with all the ball diamonds, we can't find a signed copy of, but in the minutes, it expired in 2001.
Okay, so the other contract he's talking about is just for the walking trail. That was a 20-year contract to operate and maintain the walking trail.
Yeah.
And then there was
22
there
feet
was
wide.
there was 22 feet that we had to mow to get to it. Okay, that's expired 2 years ago. So the contract you have as a park commission is just for community ed, the partnership with community ed. So there's a few different contracts. So either way, moving forward, whatever we do, we either clean up the contracts well, we don't need to clean them up. We need to start a fresh new contract with what we all agree we feel we should do, because somehow over the years, and I came into this, we've been maintaining, the diamonds and the field and
At a bare minimum.
and it's changed. It's changed, what we've done over the years with, different agreements that we've talked about. So I do agree with Chaz to some extent. I don't agree with what he's talking about we need to purchase, because it's not an option. I agree that we could purchase the 37 acres on the north side of the creek, and we could get part of that, could be a drive with, I've had many conversations with Dr. Carl to get a drive, and part of the parking. It shows you on the map that I have, because I have an agenda item as well to discuss Indian Creek. I didn't know Chazman was going to be on until last week, but mine does show a chunk that goes into the parking lot, and it would show a drive. Now, there would have to be something in place to where we'd have, an agreement with a drive and who's going to maintain what and who's going to maintain what in the parking lot. It would have to be specified very clear. But as far as, what I have here, the 37 acres, I mean, that's all we use now. The community uses the woods already. The community uses the walking trails in the woods. The school uses the walking trails for track and all cross country. And, it's used by everyone. So us gaining, and the stadium's not an option. They're keeping that whole south side because they have to have that entrance and exit as an emergency. They have to keep that. So I don't see it necessary taking the whole 72 acres. That's roughly what it is. I think if we are going to purchase it, that I'm fine with, purchasing that chunk, but I agree with you. Somebody needs to take sole ownership of it and move forward. Or we get a new contract, clean it up to where it's very clear that we maintain it, with $1 lease a year, whatever we keep, but we maintain the whole thing. But then you're not going to ever get what you're talking about because you guys don't want to stick a bunch of money into something you don't own.
Right.
So your problem continues. Right. Now, that's all. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Mr. Bruni?
Really, the whole problem here is with community ed. Community ed is the one who's supposed to maintain all these ball diamonds and everything else. It's community ed really should be like a YMCA program, a private program. It should not be under the schools. Every year I was on the school board, it lost money. It's a shell game with money with community ed. The health van makes a whole bunch of money. They just move the money around to make all the programs community ed break even. The last year I was on school board, because of COVID, community ed was, and correct me if I'm wrong, Carl, but it was roughly $41,000 we had to take from the school's general fund and give to community ed just to make them break even. The problem is, just like the school, community ed's under the school, so 85 cents of every dollar they get goes to wages, pensions, and benefits. So you get a whopping 15 cents to run your programs. Nancy Crandall's salary, roughly $60,000, so with her benefits, $85,000. Well, what you're paying for softball, soccer, and everything else, and that's just the director. All the staff under her and everything else, of course, is not going to make money. So the problem's community ed. That's why they have no money to maintain the fields and everything else. If it was a private program, it would make money.
Why don't we do this? Because I have an agenda item on there. It's under, 8F. I think we've gotten what Chaz is here. He presented it. Why don't we move on, and then Dr. Carl can come up and speak to the issues we've talked about. So thank you for being here, Chaz.
Thanks,
and
Chaz.
I appreciate your willingness to want to make it better and figure it out. So, okay. Moving on to public comment. Comments limited to 5 minutes for board agenda items only. Come on up. Okay, I'm going to close public comment if you guys can't figure it out. So,
Gail Kane, 1056 West Temperance. Well, I would love to have more conversation regarding the park board. There was really nothing in the packet to discuss exactly what is going on with all that. There's been conversations going on with the school. In order for us to make public comments and sound intelligent, the school should have been up here to say their 2 cents as well. The bottom line comes down to this. The park board has always been good, and Mr. Peroni was a member of this park board years back. We had some issues with fences and so forth at the time. But Indian Creek, the parents, Ken Weaver, was essential in getting those softball fields put together. And that's because the girls had no place to play. Fertilizing and doing all fancy stuff with the grass is not conducive to the well-being of our maintenance department, who does not have what I call a full staff. They got enough to do as it is. Leasing seems to be the best thing. And I had questions about the stadium because, yeah, the school needs those for their official soccer and lacrosse games. The north side and south side of the creek needs to be identified. The kids from cross country use the mud trail. They run through Indian Creek and over the river and through the woods. Dog parks, not a priority, at least not in my book right now at this time. The problem is who's going to pick up and clean up, and this is a huge thing, the maintenance of the park board. You got people on the park board who will not allow their phone numbers to be given out or email addresses. Wrong. They're elected officials. That's their duty to the public to make themselves available, because these parks are under their auspices. They've been elected to take care of this. And yeah, it's not a fun task. There's a lot of work for a park board official to be taken into. They oversee these parks. I think they need to have more park board officials. I think they need to have their own maintenance crew that they can dictate to and get on schedule, not the townships. The townships got to take care of cemeteries and all the other stuff. And if you're going to buy, we need to have an appraised value. And who's it going to belong to? Who's going to be responsible for handling the events? We have the senior center that was cut loose from the school. And they're talking about this multi-million-dollar park and sports event thing that they're going to be putting up. So I'm a little bit confused here as to what they do and don't really want to be responsible for. But if community ed is cut loose, we don't have to do that. This is not something that has to be provided for by the township. And the school doesn't have to provide community ed programs. That's a plus. That's all there is to it. It's a plus. But this definitely needs to be talked about a whole lot more. There needs to be a whole lot of discussion, some open cow meetings or something of that nature where things can be tossed about and everybody can get a full picture, because there's just not enough information. But I would not advocate buying it. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments?
Jeffrey King, 692 Seminole Trail. Item 8F, discussion on maintenance and possible purchase of Indian Creek Park. I think we should first assess where we are with our current maintenance within Indian Creek Park. Without a current contractor agreement, I believe we should be using our manpower elsewhere in the community. While it is nice to go out and cut, trim, and blow Indian Creek as a township employee, I believe we are opening ourselves up to potential liability issues. If services are to be continued with Indian Creek, a new understanding agreement should be negotiated between maintenance, the school board, the township board, not going after an offer to purchase the park. As to the equipment we use, 28-year-old 3-deck Jacobson recently went out of service while attempting to give Indian Creek a nice once-over. With no Jacobson, the task of cutting around the 6 diamonds took all 4 tow mowers, 2 of which are 2 years old and 2 are from my previous tenure as a seasonal worker back in the early 2000s. In a 4-hour time span, with 4 seasonal, a part-time employee, and myself, we rough-cut the entire ball diamond area of the park in 3.5 hours. It took 2 days after a weed-killing treatment from Bedford Public Schools to scrape weeds from the diamonds and then use an undersized drag pulled behind a 2004 dump truck to gather those weeds and then manually remove them from the undersized drag. This took the seasonal crew and the entirety of our regular buildings and grounds crew out of White Park, Samaria, and Parmalee and car parks prior to the week when they were scheduled to be cut. Based on the size of the current green space, the equipment used to service the entirety of the township, the current 3 full-time, 1 part-time buildings and grounds employees of the township, and the need to satellite everything into a park that isn't accessible without using the current public school's exclusive driveway, I would recommend to the board that we not purchase the property. I feel a discussion on the current status of the parks as a whole, as well as the plans that are currently with the Park Commission and their project lists, should be reviewed before we jump into an act-now, limited-time offer of a park that's owned by a school and might be for sale if the price is right. 8.3, or no, that's 8E, that's not a 3. Approval posting for full-time firefighter paramedic. Starting wage looks like it's great at $20.91. Overtime opportunities, 13 holidays, paid vacation and sick time, retirement plans, deferred compensation, dress and work uniforms at no cost, reimbursement for training. The benefits look great for a new full-time firefighter and paramedic. Minimum qualifications of a high school diploma or GED, driver's license, State of Michigan firefighting classes 1-2, hazmat awareness, operations, as well as paramedic certification with an availability to work 24-hour shifts, including weekends and holidays, seems in line with the current pay structure of the fire department. I like that. Item 8D, pay increase for maintenance employee. Pay increase effective immediately. We're looking at pay increase for a part-time employee who has no specific hour retainer to add to a workload that potentially takes one of our 4 current building and grounds employees out of the day-to-day operations of service, neither on a building or grounds. I don't see any certifications in the board packet to justify a pay increase to retain a current employee. Also, are we now increasing pay for previous work experience when that consideration didn't factor into either the original hiring process of the seasonal or his upgrade to part-time. In the board memo in 11/9/21 from Mr. Peroni to the board, he states that the past 4 full-time employees and several part-time employees in the maintenance department were what we operated with. The solution at that time was to have 1 seasonal, 1 part-time, and 2 full-time employees. Those employees are responsible for cutting 35 parcels, grave digging, snow plowing, and general maintenance. And then in a board memo dated 1/11/21, we sought to move Mr. Walters from seasonal to part-time. Paul spoke with Pat and asked to his work performance as a seasonal worker, and the Personnel Committee recommended Dan to be hired part-time. That takes me to this. Where's the same due diligence in the pay increase effective immediately proposal that is before the board tonight? Previously, there had been an investment into an employee and their background prior to upgrading them to a greater employee within the township. Where is the benefit to buildings and grounds in Bedford Township, taking an employee away from plowing, cutting, grave digging, and general maintenance and placing them into an automotive setting? Wouldn't it be considered skilled labor in an unskilled labor union shop? So the proposal tonight is to immediately retain a part-time employee at a rate of pay on level with the established full-time building and grounds employees in excess of 10 years of experience. Previously, Mr. Walters has had 3 stints with Fiat Chrysler, 3-year stints with Fiat Chrysler and Woodlawn Cemetery. In each of those instances, there was a $3 increase prior to his exit from those jobs. I say that to say this. My favorite book is If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. It is a circular tale illustrating a slippery slope. Are we now going to write our own book? If you give a part-time guy a pay increase based on previous work experience. I'm just asking, what are the qualifications? What are the benchmarks that we should be looking at to increase pay to a part-time person who is already on staff? When I save money on something, I cherish it, I love it. I don't go back to my place that I bought it from and say, I'd like to pay you more. I look for more value in order to invest.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments?
Ken Gagne, 8311 Lambert Street. I'd like to speak a little bit about Mulch King. I've seen several articles on Facebook. Why is the township shutting Mulch King down? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? My question is, there's been a lot of time spent talking about Mulch King the last few months. Why was he ever allowed to open before he got compliant? I've heard rumors that somebody allowed him to open. Why? How come this someone or someones aren't held liable? If they'd be held liable, Andy would have never opened until he was in compliance. And I don't understand why there's been so much money and time spent going back and forth. If he wasn't in compliance, he should have been shut down, what, 4.5 years ago? Not 4.5 years later. So I just don't understand why it's gone on this long and nobody's accountable. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments? Okay, seeing none, moving on to staff reports. Update from Planning Department and Building Department on Mulch King site compliance requirements. Ms. Rector, appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Board. Actually, this is just for an update. The Board at the last meeting had given a deadline date of June 1st at midnight, and the Building and Planning Department did a site visit on June 2nd. And at that time, several of the items, the site has substantially come into compliance with the site plan. There are several items, minor items that still need to be addressed, and I will actually just basically touch on those tonight. But the Planning and Building Department, after the site visit and seeing all the items that the applicant had brought into compliance, working to meet the deadline date, did not feel that it was in our jurisdiction to override the motion of the board and giving the deadline date. So we felt that the best option was to bring it back to the board, advise of all the items that have been brought into compliance. At that time, the building official had spoken. The main item was the salt bin that was discussed. After watching the meeting, I did go back. It was shown on the site plan. However, as a planning department, the applicant had shown the items were being for retail sales, which is not permitted. So that is where the confusion first came about the salt bin. The salt bin was shown on the site plan. However, the salt was being sold at a retail sales, which was not permitted. So in moving forward, I have clearly advised the applicant that retail sales is not permitted on site of anything that is not produced, such as mulch, the wood chippings. He does have some firewood for sale. I have explained to him any items that he has a question or a concern with to reach out to the planning department, and we can work together and make that determination before he brings the items on site, so there is no more of product being brought on that he cannot sell. Real quick, the main concern I have right now is the building official did go out today, take a look at the structure, and has since determined that the structure is in compliance. I just need to confirm before I determine the structure to be in compliance. If you look at the packet information on the salt bin, I had requested Eagle, because that was also a discussion of the board with Eagle's concern on the salt being on site. And as a planning department, I reached out. Matt Koznecki from Eagle did make a site visit as requested, and the only comment I don't know if for sure has been addressed from Eagle's standpoint is in the motion he forgot to ask that the joints and the cracks in the concrete via the pictures that were included, they need to be sealed. And I did not receive, not sure if Mr. Nitz actually saw this email or not from Eagle. We did go over all the landscaping. I did work with the applicant on the plantings. He has no water source. I surely don't want him installing plants that in a year's time he's going to have to keep replacing. He is working on trying to get some kind of irrigation around with a hose and then pumping water should we have several days that are dry, so those plantings will survive. And the compliance, of course, he has to always comply with the state and the county and the federal ordinance. On the site visit, I did explain to him that in speaking with legal, we did determine that the salt can remain as long as it's within the structure. However, it can only be used for his personal use, not retail sales. There were also some, if you visit the site, you will see a tarp over some blocks. He asked if he could keep those on site. He would like to use them when he moves forward with putting in his monument sign. I agreed to that. I wouldn't want him to have to buy those if it's going to be something he's going to utilize, but reiterated he cannot retail sell them. Keep in mind he has brought down all the piles heights down to 12 feet. After I had done some research more, because composting was new to the township, sometimes leaf piles might be taller, just to let the residents know if they see anything, the leaf pile being higher. As a township, we're going to work with him because it does have to build up heat to then turn it to piles, and then so it produces the brush to make the mulch. So those will sometimes be higher, and of course with our size of community, depending on how many leaves and brush he gets on a daily basis as well. I explained to him that the site plan, even once it's signed off on, has to remain in compliance. No product for sale, keep the piles down. There is a portion in the front where he's going to put some cinder blocks where he's going to have the product for sale. We discussed and encouraged him to maybe put down some type of hard surface. I told him when he's ready to move forward with that to please contact the planning department. Depending on the size, he may have to have the drain commission review it to make sure the drainage will be supported on site. At this time, he's not installing the monument sign due to the cost. He's trying to gather some materials and then have the sign made. He does have accessory signs, non-accessory signs.
But that's not an issue.
It's not an issue.
Right now,
it's his desire to not have a sign. So when he's ready, he knows he has to submit a bill to the planning department. I will review it and approve it, and then it will go to the building department for a building permit. There is an additional proposed structure, and I also had encouraged him to submit the process of plans to the building department. He does not have to come back for site plan approval for that. But other than that, the site in itself is in compliance. I'm grateful the site has been brought into compliance. However, planning and building department could not make the decision because the site wasn't in compliance on June 2nd as directed by the board. So I just felt that as a planning department coordinator, I had to express to you that I feel the applicant has done his share of work and the board has done their share of work, that the last issue should not be on the back of the taxpayers, and we should try to continue to move forward with these minor amendments. And if you have any questions.
I just want to say, I did request to show up the day that Jody and Dennis did. Very professional, did a great job. Jody's done a great job throughout the process. I just wanted to be there for myself as a supervisor and somebody that's been intimately involved in this over the years. With the building, it was going to be tough for him to get it finished, so I guided him to a contractor, and he was able to hire them and do a lot of work over the weekend. With the temporary, the CFO that was discussed, I heavily encouraged him to get everything done now and get it done and get your CFO and move on. So the township's not over yet for another year. So I'm glad to see that he's this close. Hopefully you can go out there tomorrow and see that it is completed and be done with it. But I do appreciate, Jody, everything that you've done with working with him. I know you've been over in some areas with plannings and with some different areas and helped him out, and I do appreciate it. It's been a very difficult process for a lot of people. And to answer your question in the back, it was a board decision to let him move and open early. Lamar Frederick was on this board at that time. We decided, because we were shut down in the back, because one of our residents called and complained about a smell, keep in mind, okay, this was an option for residents to keep being able to dump their leaves and grass and sticks without putting the dumpsters in the back again. Okay, the dumpsters were a hazard, they were a liability, and Andrew was kind enough to open up his facility for us to be able to utilize. We didn't know it was going to turn into this. Okay, nobody did. Okay, so here we are. And, any more comments, Mr. Gore?
Yep. So, great. Things are moving along. Glad to see that. But the salt. Of course, we all know he can't sell it for retail. How much salt is there? I think it's like 11 tons or something.
1,000 tons.
There's 1,000, because the last meeting I specifically asked that point. He said he had almost 500 tons, and I asked about a delivery he took at the beginning of December and said, you knew you couldn't sell it. Why did you order it? He just said, well, he couldn't cancel the order. That was the answer. But he ordered another 500 ton delivered in December.
But 1,000 tons, you know how long it would take personal use for 1,000 tons of salt?
And I did.
Well, personal use, keep in mind, he has a business for snow plowing. He could go through quite a bit in a season with his business.
I will say I did speak to Andrew on that, because that was the concern with the structure, because Dennis couldn't actually access the inside of the building, and that was discussed at the board level of how do you approve a structure you can't gain access to. I did speak with him, and his business, he does have a snow plowing service in the winter that he runs. So in speaking with legal, we determined that since it was approved on the site plan, that as long as he's not selling it, and it would be a violation of the ordinance if I see any, or if I get any complaints or concerns of advertising, and that's how it was brought to my attention the last time, and that's why I had said he had to get rid of the salt bin, because he was retail selling it, which is not permitted by ordinance.
I'm just glad we're ready to move forward.
Understood.
Any more comments, Mr. Steiner?
The site does look a heck of a lot better, and it's starting to look actually nice over there. From day one, nobody on this board wanted to shut him down. That was not our ultimate goal. The goal was to get the property in compliance, and it shouldn't have taken the ultimatum of either do it or else. It should have been done years ago, not in 30 days time frame that we gave him basically to make it happen. My biggest concern, and Joe started it off, is how do you get rid of 1,000 ton in it? I know he's got his own business for snow plowing, but 1,000 ton is a lot of salt.
Can I say something real quick? And then go ahead, you get finished.
So either way, my concern is then if he does say that he's going to be compliant and he's not going to sell salt, how do you prove it? You can't prove it. I mean, anybody could go in there and he'd say, oh, that's one of my guys taking out a load of salt. How are you going to prove it? Are you going to say, open up your books? Are you going to show me? You know, and who knows, maybe it's one of his guys and, you know, throw half a ton in the truck and say, okay, you know, throw another ton and a half in the truck so I can haul it, and then he took it down to his buddy and sold it to him. I mean, it's sort of a catch-22, but I'm glad we're to the point of that. The last question that I want to ask, though, is he had a temporary C of O issued on June 2nd. Paul said he told him to get working on it, but between Friday, the weekend, and all of a sudden, last minute today, before this meeting, all of a sudden we've got a permanent C of O.
Well, I can speak to that.
What did he do to it?
I encouraged him to get it done before tonight. He had people working on double time from the Ironworkers Local 55 Foundation Steel, who I turned them on to, and they had worked overtime all weekend and got the building done.
So is it enclosed now or what?
It's up to the plans. It's up to code. It's what the engineering status.
If you look at that picture right there, that certainly wouldn't fit in.
Well, I don't know when you were out there, but that's not like that today.
So I'm just asking.
Either way, I'm just saying. Okay, Dennis Kohler went out there, okay, today and inspected it. Why wouldn't you want to know that the building's got a CFO today instead of having a meeting to talk about it tonight? The guy's been through enough. That was my point. Get it done. Get it to the table and get it, like Jody said. It's very few things. It's Eagle. Eagle's the only thing.
What Jody came up with and she wrote up here, it's a very good process that finally got to where it needs to be going. But let's not say that what he's been through. How about what the township's been through, what the taxpayers have paid for this, what Jody and her team and Dennis and team have cost the township?
Well, what's the point of hashing all this out right now? Talking about the salt, talking about what we've been through, let's just listen. What's the point of hashing it out again?
Speak, Paul?
You do, but
I do.
I mean,
so take your personal side out of this and let's
it's
get
not
to the
personal.
business.
It's for him. It's a business.
You're right. It's a business. So let's talk about the business, not talk about Andrew. Okay?
Well, Jody just told us everything that he's done and he needs to do. What's the point of hashing out salt, which he's allowed to have?
If I can say something, I would just like to say that Mr. Kohler did go out. He did have on my desk when I came in for the meeting tonight the certificate of occupancy. I have not spoken to him, so I'm not sure what was done on the structure, but I surely can get information and input to answer that and send you an email or have him send you an email of his determination of the structure. I will go out tomorrow to take a look to see if it's in compliance with the Eagle response and see if Dennis can take me and then we can look, because we did take pictures and Dennis did show me the issues with the structure that we were out there, why he was only willing to give us a temporary C of O until it was fixed. So I can get with him in the morning, and if anybody would like response back, I have no problem.
Just so you know, he pulled out 700 ton of salt to fix it.
But I can't speak on the structure.
And then put it all
I'm not
back
a
in
building
after he fixed it.
inspector.
I'm just telling you what he
I
did to
understand,
get to compliance.
But if you're going to get on all this about why are we hashing things out, let's talk about the self-created problems that he created.
100%. He created his own issue.
He was granted a variance to use trees as a buffer. I'm talking now. And what did he do after he was granted the variance? Cut those trees down.
I don't disagree with you at all.
So we are gunshot.
He has self-created his issues. He has self-created the problem. He didn't follow the plan. Okay? We all know that. But the point is he's to the finish line now. We don't need to hash out all these things that were, you know what I mean? Let's get him across the line and move on. That's my point.
We just want people to know that we're still a little skeptical of some minor things, even though it's 90% in compliance.
What's skeptical, though? I mean,
I just said
she's got caulk he needs to have on a building, and that's it. I mean, that's it, right, Jody? With Eagle? Caulk in the blocks.
Sealing the blocks, and I would like to speak to Dennis on the structure just from my own knowledge, because I did go out and see the structure when it was not in compliance, and I did not go out today. I can't speak on the structure because I'm not the building official, but definitely I can get an update, and I understand everybody's concerns, but I can guarantee that I will make sure the items are finished, and I have encouraged Mr. Nitz to please contact me, and I have made several calls. I will say that his intentions were to come to the meeting tonight. I advised him it was going to be on for discussion, but he currently already had a prior engagement with his family, and so I advised him that there was no need because I didn't believe there was going to be a motion or anything to change. I was just looking for direction because the board had made a decision of a deadline time frame. But other than that, we're all on the right path.
Okay, I will make a motion that Jody continue working with Mr. Nitz to get the final site plan approval to be finalized.
Support.
Motion, support of Mr. Montry. Discussion, Mr. Bruning?
Yeah, I was just going to add, I'm just happy he's to this point now, Paul. I mean, it's just sad it took this long to get to it. I'm happy that we're there, but then for you, Jody, because going to all the salt he has. So when he does get into compliance, can he put in requests to be able to sell items that he doesn't manufacture are made on site? Because I know he had an attorney come up and do that earlier. That wasn't about to happen when he wasn't even in compliance. So
When it was brought to the Planning Commission, we had several discussions on it, and due to the site not being in compliance, the memo was provided to the board stating at that time the Planning Commission determined not to move forward. I believe when it came back to the Township Board from his attorney, the board desired to not move forward with the language. He would still have to come back to this board, ask for determination from the Planning Department to look at the language of the ordinance, and then I would have to take it back to the Planning Commission, requires a public hearing, and then it goes to the Planning Commission for a recommendation, and then back to this board for a decision.
Okay.
But he would have the right desiring of this board whether he could ask for other product on site.
perfect. Now that he's in compliance, good.
Yep.
So I'm happy. That's all I had. Thanks.
Okay, so any more discussion?
I just want to thank Jody for all her hard work, and Dennis, he's not here, but for going back out and making sure everything's done. And I know, Jody, you're the last one to have to sign off, so I'm glad that you've been very
Thank
diligent
you.
in
I appreciate
getting
the
those
board
things done.
working hard as well.
Well, Dennis went out there on his day off today to do what he did. So, I mean, it's, everybody's working hard. Dennis, I think, donated some steel to help him finish it. I mean, Dennis was very involved in helping. So, I mean, we all care, but my whole point tonight is, he's to the finish line. We don't need to hash out the last 5 years. Okay, could you call the roll?
Question about your motion.
To let Jody continue to be working with Andrew Nitz in the building department to finalize site plan approval as a whole.
Do we even need a motion? I thought this was
That's
just
what I was
something to be
wondering.
brought up
Yeah.
to.
I don't
as a-
think
I mean,
we
she's
need-
looking for direction. Do we want to give her a motion?
I just want to
for
make sure that
direction,
we
or
were.
Just let her
that-
continue working.
Just let her continue working.
Okay, continue working.
Yeah.
We're good. Thank you.
Thank you,
When
Jody.
it's ready to come to the board, then we can
You gotta
approve
remove your
it.
motion.
No, wait,
I'll rescind the motion.
but
Thank you.
go to Mr. Camperth. I believe we have to have a motion here because at the last meeting, the motion was made that if it was not 100% in compliance as of midnight June 1, then proceedings would automatically take place. So don't we have to put a motion in place to stop that, technically?
Well, technically, Jody didn't follow what the board told her to do if she's here tonight. So if we want to be technical about it, she should have shut him down and let legal red
But
tape.
Jody can't shut him down.
No, she was directed to go to legal and red tape him.
And I did go to legal, and I
So, I'm
expressed
just
my
saying.
concern with the fact that
There's your
he
answer. She talked to
was
legal.
Oh, I know. I was on the
substantially
phone
in
with her.
compliance, and I felt that instead of moving forward with legal fees on the back of the taxpayers, the best option for the planning, building department, and the community was to present his compliance to the board and make sure that I wasn't overstepping my authorization to say we can continue to move forward with him. So your voice is, I think, stating that I can continue. I'm not sure that you
Well,
need
let's
a
get
motion.
Marty.
but
Marty, what do we need
Marty.
to do here?
If it sounds like it, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm kind of getting thrown into this. There was a motion apparently, and he had to comply with all of the site plan requirements by June 1st, midnight. And then the planning department and building department went out to the site the day after and found substantial compliance, but maybe not 100% compliance, and maybe they're not 100% as we speak here today.
It was enough to where they felt the board would not want them shut down. It was enough to say, hey, we can't move
Yes,
forward
and at
with
that
this. It
time,
was that
Dennis
close to the
was
finish
given a
line.
temporary C of O conditioned upon us revisiting the site and the building being brought into compliance.
But to answer your question, the board directed planning and building to go out there June 1 midnight and see if the site is in compliance. If it's not, you start the processes with legal, period.
So then Jody reported to Phil Goldsmith of my office, and they had the discussion about the appearance of compliance. And at that point in time, Phil didn't rush to the courthouse with a violation. I think that if it makes more clarity tonight, to have a motion to confirm the status that Jody is expressing here, that is fine. I don't necessarily think a motion is absolutely necessary because of the general consensus we're hearing here tonight. But if it clarifies things, that we're fine. Or if you want to make a motion to go ahead and prosecute for ordinance violation, I guess we'd want to hear a motion to that too. Just because we've moved past the June 1st date, there's been a lot of activity. The site is coming into substantial compliance. And to go to court on that, I don't know as if that's the best thing without a further mandate from this board with a motion. So I'm okay with a motion to clarify the status of things right now and that no action is needed. I'm also okay and comfortable, and maybe somebody else would say something different. I'm also okay with the general consensus that I'm hearing here tonight with respect to the status quo.
Okay.
Marty,
We're
the
good
only-
with the general census, I think. The board as a whole.
Now,
is-
hold the phone here. The only reason I said this, Marty, is because somebody from the public could come forward and say, look, you as a board voted that if he was not 100% in compliance as of June 1, you would take immediate action. Okay? We can sit here and somebody could come back on us and say, wait a minute, he's not in compliance 100%. You're supposed to be taking action here. So we would be violating our motion that we voted on.
Okay.
Paul, what about making a motion
then-
to take no action based
So
on the current
that's what I'm saying.
circumstances?
So I'm going to make a motion that we're taking no action based on the fact that the site has been primarily brought into compliance per planning and building departments, that there are a couple of minor instances where planning will be working with the owner of Mulch King to bring the site the rest of the way into compliance, namely regarding the salt structure. That has to do with the caulking between the blocks and the last comment from Eagle. Is that correct, Jody?
Yes.
Support.
Okay, motion and support of Ms. Januzek. Any more discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Yeah.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Thank you,
Thank
Jody.
you.
Appreciate it. Okay. New business, vouchers for payment, Ms. Hirschberger.
I'd like to make a motion that the following vouchers be approved for payment. General Fund, $51,022.90. Fire District, $46,684.58. Police Fund, $4,858.94. Park Operating, $57,237.39. Fire Equipment, $15,337.18. Downtown Development Authority, $109.59. Library Operating Fund, $4,784.47. Sewer O&M Fund, $461,417.31. Trust and Agency, $5,510.02, for a grand total of $646,962.38.
Support.
Okay, motion and support of Ms. Januzek. Any more discussion? Let's call the roll, please.
Hirschberger votes aye. Ms. Janusek?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8B, request to rezone parcel 5802-036-029-10, also 7100 Crab Road, from I-1 Planned Industrial Park Zoning District to I-2 Light Industrial Zoning District. If you'd like to come on up to the mic. Anybody have any comments or questions on this? Hey, go ahead. Can you kind of give us a little update?
Thank you, board members, for having me this evening. My name is Joe Lawson. I'm here on behalf of Consumers Energy. Our address is 1 Energy Plaza, Jackson, Michigan, 49201. We're here this evening on the recommendation from the Township Planning Commission to approve the requested rezoning. The purpose behind this rezoning is my understanding. Well, let me back up. Consumers Energy purchased this property recently, which consists of 2 separate parcels. One currently is zoned I-1, one is currently zoned I-2. Through our process of wishing to combine these 2 parcels, it was understood on direction from the township that we had to, both parcels had to be zoned identical. Hence, the reason we are requesting the rezoning from the I-1 to the I-2, so the 2 parcels are obviously zoned the same, and then we can move forward with combining the 2 parcels into one. This is what we call our South Monroe Service Center. We use this facility for maintenance equipment and materials for our crews to show up, obviously, for a work day and go out into the community and perform maintenance and repairs. We did just recently purchase, I think it was 2 years ago, the parcel itself, and like I said, we're just moving forward with this process to rezone it so we can combine it. And I don't know what the plans are moving forward right now, but I'm sure, as we do with all of our service centers, I'm sure we'll be back in the not so distant future with improvements to the property, to keep our equipment and whatnot centered in the community itself.
Okay.
So if there's any questions, I'm sorry.
Anybody have any questions?
For you?
Comments?
You know, Consumers Energy charges $60,000 for that fire station bid.
I do not know that. I'm in real estate, not so much service lead, sorry.
Even though it's for the fire station, wouldn't even budge. Full 60,000.
As a regulated utility, we're kind of stuck too.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? Mr. Steiner?
So this was discussed at the Planning Commission. Everything that Joe just stated is accurate. They bought the property and found out that they could not combine the 2 parcels with split zoning. So this is why they're following the direction of the Planning Commission, Planning Department. To bring it into compliance and to bring them into one parcel, they have to have them zoned. And so they requested to go to the specific zoning for I-2 light industrial. With that said, I'll make a motion, and I'm just going to reiterate the Planning Commission's motion to recommend this body here to request from Consumers Energy to rezone parcel 5802-036-029-10 from I-1 Planned Industrial Park Zoning District to I-2 Light Industrial Zoning District, located on the east side of Crab Road, south of Stearns Road, otherwise known as 7100 Crab Road, Temperance, Michigan 48182, due to the request being consistent with the Township's master plan, Township's future land use plan, and its goals and strategies. A rezoning is required for the 2 parcels owned by the applicant to be combined, given the property size and setting. The I-2 Light Industrial District is more appropriate than the I-1 Industrial Park District and subject to review and approval and a combination from the Assessing Department. All shall be subject to the common title ownership and identical zoning district classification of the lands to be combined.
Okay. That's your motion? Do you have a support?
Support.
Okay, support of Mr. Bruning. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Okay, item 8C, approve the permit for the June 2022 fireworks display. Anybody have any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, I look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the permit for the June 2022 fireworks display.
Support.
Okay, motion supported, Mr. Bruning. Discussion? Okay, seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8E, approve posting, Item 8D, pay increase for maintenance employee. Okay, so as of today, we obviously we have 8 people working in the maintenance department, 4 seasonal, 3 full-time and 1 part-time. Last year or a couple of years, we hired a couple new people, Dan and Jeff. We decided to move full-time with Mr. King to retain him. There was no specific reason. Personally, I felt like we could probably have kept it the way it was, but we need to keep people that know how to dig funerals and that know how to work on equipment and know how to get the job done in the maintenance department. And we dealt with that last year when we had some people get sick and we had funerals come out. We needed more than 2 people that could dig a funeral or do the job we need to do. So Jeff was brought to full-time simply for retainment. It wasn't because of a qualification or certification. Same thing with Mr. Dan right now. Dan's been with us for a while. He's a great employee. We've never really given him a solid schedule of this is when you need to be here. Because at $15 an hour, when you're a skilled person, we kind of want to tread a little lightly. So I've talked to him over the last year and said, well, what do you really want? He wants to be here, permanently. He doesn't really need full-time status. So I thought to save the township money, let's pay the gentleman more to retain him and keep him part-time. We save a decent amount of money, giving him more money and not going to the full-time with insurance package. So that's why he's here. He does work on vehicles. He's working on getting multiple certifications. He's got 2, and he's working on another one right now as we speak. But we do plan, if this goes through, to give him a solid schedule that he has to submit every week. That way we know when he's going to be here and not be here, because it's not 40 hours a week. So that's the point of this being here, is retainment. He's got other offers for a qualified maintenance person making the same money as this. So people do start out with jobs like this making 20, making a decent wage as maintenance people. So that's why he's here, is retainment. He's a solid guy. He can dig funerals. He works on it. He saved us $7,000 working on our ordinance vehicle 5 months ago with the Cadillac converter issue. So, so that's why he's here. So if we lose him, then we got to find somebody else. And good luck finding somebody that can dig graves and be qualified to do different things for $15 an hour. Mm-hmm. Especially in today's day and age. They'll Monroe Public Schools wants them now. So, if we want skilled people, and we're saving money by not bringing him to full-time. So,
I'll say, like, my without getting into details of this specific, I'm in favor of this in general because I see it happen all the time, and it doesn't matter what line of work you're in. It's the kind of thing that happens all the time that, to me, always seems unwise. When you lose good people, when they're willing to stay with you, but you got somebody else making them an offer, hey, I'd like to stay, but how can I justify staying if someone's offering me more? And whoever the employer may be, not honoring that and losing said good person, and then the expenses of finding someone, training them, and just that endless cycle. Like I said, I see it happen all the time, and to me it seems like I'm going to lean on the supervisor's decision making in his department in this regard. That, like, I understand it. It's not just giving somebody money just to give them money, or whatever it may be. It's I understand the retention thing, and I said you see it constantly where you think, I got buddies that, I told them this other company's offering me more. I want to stay here. I'm happy here, but I gotta do what makes sense for me and my family. And the company I work for says no, so I leave. And now they're shorthanded and short-staffed and trying to fill a spot. And when the offer was there, and so I'm in favor of the pay increase off of that.
We've come to the point where we realize we need 4 solid people. And, hopefully with this, we can have a solid crew for the next 20 years.
Paul, where does it stop? Okay, you give him a $5 bump now an hour, which, you know, I believe in pay raises. I believe in paying people what they're worth. But I also believe in, you know, step increases and slow, you know, just one swoop of the pen, $5 an hour pay raise. Okay, 6 months from now, Monroe Public Schools, Erie, Whiteford, wherever, says, oh, we'll give you $23 an hour. Then he comes back to the board, hey, I want $3 more an hour.
Well, I can answer that. Look at what we did in the planning department with Katrina. One swoop of a pen, we took somebody that had not so much training in a department, took her to full-time. Same thing with Mr. King. Somebody that, you know.
She had training. She
Well, I'm
was
saying
seasonal.
she was with the department for a
She
year.
was
She was
seasonal for a year, then she was part-time for a year, and then she went to full-time. So
But we-
she
It's
did
a
have
decent
training.
analogy.
It's because it's not like he's
We
on
took
training
her and
here. It's
went
a
to
decent
full-time.
analogy.
We didn't have to do that. We
No.
took Mr. King and went to full-time. We didn't have to do that. I mean, there, you know what I'm saying? The point is it's over now. There won't be any more because our full-time guys that have been there for 20 years make, you know, one guy, Mr. Trune, is at 21.
And you got to
So
cross
he won't
that
be
bridge.
getting any more
You got to cross that
bumps.
bridge when you get to it. The market's going to decide, because yeah, maybe you might have to cross that bridge if all of your employees are getting offers like that. Like, I mean, but you can't make a decision based off of that. You got to cross that bridge when you get to it and decide where is the threshold, because it might be, yeah.
This is
that might be your
to
threshold,
keep,
and you
this
go,
is
hey,
to
we
keep
can't.
him. Now he follows the union as far as his pay raises. Every February he'll get the same raises everybody, whatever the 2% or whatever. He'll be on that. This is just to retain and keep a qualified, good employee. Mr. Steiner.
Just so it can be clarified, $20 an hour is the request. He's currently at,
15 and some change.
1570.
okay, so basically 4.25 or 430, and then we're talking about how many annual hours estimate? I mean, 228 is
32 to
full-time.
38.
Oh, you're talking 32, 38 per week.
Yeah. Technically, he could work 40 because we have less than 50 employees.
Okay, that was my next question.
Yes, you can. I've looked into
Because I know we got to be close there.
It's where he could work full 40 hours, but we don't. He doesn't want to, so we keep him in that range.
So you're talking maybe $1,500 hours, give or take, per year. That's 30.
Yeah.
Okay, so 30 times 430. So you're looking at about 1,200 or 12,000.
Okay.
So that's the variance. And you have a place in your budget to push this?
So, like when we brought on Mr. King, we were going to have to do a budget adjustment. We have money in maintenance that we can move over before the end of the year to cover it. But next year we'll have to, for next year it'll be budgeted.
Yeah, because we're starting our fiscal year.
Starting our
coming
fiscal
up
year.
here July 1. So.
From what I've talked to Mr. Miller, we should have enough in there. We don't have
That's
enough
right
to
here.
cover what we did with, oh, Bobby, come on up, if you could explain it. We talked about it. The shortfall is roughly $8,700 with bringing him to this rate for this fiscal year.
Yes, you are correct. For this year, there is sufficient funds there. For next year, we'll need to do the budget adjustment, move some money around to make room for this.
So you'll have basically money left over that you could possibly carry into the next budget? Or do you have to go to the general fund and just make an adjustment?
Well, the initial thought would be move money around in line items that he's not going to fully use for next fiscal year.
Right.
And if there's not enough there, he will have to take it out of the fund balance, general fund balance.
Okay. I mean, I hate to say it, some people think $20 is a lot of money, but in these days and in the environment, you can't get people to work, period. I mean, you've got fast food places paying bonuses to get people to come on and work, and still
don't show up.
Yeah, and still don't show up. And you know what? I'm going to give kudos to anybody that's elderly that works in fast food restaurants or, down at Meijer or Kmart. Well, no more Kmart, but any of those places. You know why they work there and they keep their jobs? They show up to work because they're reliable. So it's tough to keep. If this guy's good, I mean, I guess, Paul, next time, just, you said he's got a couple certifications he's already got, and he's working, just throw those in a packet.
I asked for him, and
Well, even if you can identify them, doesn't have to be the actual certificate or whatever, just throw them on here.
I was
so
going to ask that too.
Yeah.
Because I'm okay with it. It's just, you say the certifications, and like I said, I have no problems with this. I just would like verification if he has all of them.
Yeah.
If he doesn't have all of them, when is he going to complete it? Just that's just my concern.
Yeah.
So.
Just keep in mind, I'm not here tonight because he has certifications. I'm here tonight to retain him. The certifications are a cherry on top, that he can perform
that's-
things, and we don't have to send it to
nobody's questioning that.
automotive
No,
place.
people just saying.
Yeah. No, he's working on them. I'll get him. It's something that we've discussed a lot.
So is our full-time union?
You got to talk into the mic. We got to talk.
So
to
is
the
our
mic.
full-time union employees going to be able to come back to the bargaining table and say, hey, we want $4.30 an hour pay raise to
No.
retain us?
No, because they have a union contract that's been negotiated in place. The time was January. Did we do that? 2 years ago. So yeah, it's can't do it. So
Which I understand the concern, because now we have a full-time person that's going to be making less in hourly than one of our full-time
keep in mind
people.
that full-time person costs us
Correct.
decent amount more
Correct.
than
I'm
Dan.
just talking hourly.
And they're on the same skill level, as far as doing work. I mean, I think Dan has more skill with, vehicle maintenance because that's what he does. But,
Yeah, because you can add 20, 30% in benefits depending on
Oh, yeah.
where it falls. So that's
so. And that could have been something that could have worked out with Mr. King if he didn't need full time. I would have worked out a deal and said, hey, we could do part time. I mean, the difference, with Dan was he didn't need insurance, and you do get vacation pay and all these benefits with it, but he expressed that part time is the way he'd like to go. So
yeah,
that's
not
what
everybody needs all the other stuff.
All right. Well, I look for a motion.
I'll make the motion to retain Dan Walters at the requested rate of $20 per hour, effective, I would say what, Paul, going into this pay
Effective
period?
immediately.
This pay period? I mean, it'd be easier to do it at a pay
Whatever.
period cut.
It would.
Whatever you think, Bob. When should we do effective?
Pay period cut? Okay.
Effective immediately, then, if you can.
Because I know sometimes the systems mess you up if you try to do it in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine.
I'll support.
Okay, motion in support of Mr. Bruning. Any more discussion?
I don't know if it's significant to note, I would say, that it's like a big bump, but it's not arbitrary. You're matching an offer. You're not, he didn't just show up and say, I want $5, or whatever it would, 4.25. It wasn't just a arbitrary number. You have a market-based match that you're competitive match. And I think that's significant within the decision making.
Just to clarify, are you setting his schedule? Because I think you misspoke and you said he will give us a schedule.
We will be setting the schedule,
Okay.
but it's obvious we're going to be open to him as a part-time employee. If he says, hey, I can work Monday instead of Friday this week, we're going to work with him on that. If we say, hey, we have a funeral this week and we're going to need you, he's going to work with us on that. So it'll be a kind of a give and take thing. He's not just going to come in and submit his schedule and say, hey, this is what I'm working this week.
So he's not going to be working like a 32.
I'm going to sit down with
32.
Pat and figure
Okay.
out what we want him to do, and then sit down with Dan and what's realistic, and we'll work it out.
Okay.
So, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montre?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Nay.
Ms. Janusek?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 6-1. Okay, item 8F, approve posting for full-time firefighter / paramedic.
E.
Oh, E. My slash messed it up. 8E, approve posting for full-time firefighter / paramedic. Chief Kirkine, thank you.
Good evening. You guys have the information that we're asking for. Unfortunately, we had 2 full-timers that have asked to go down to part-time status, and so we would like to replace them.
Okay, any comments, questions for Chief? Ms. King?
I spoke with Doug earlier today, and he's going to be working with the clerk's department to put the notice together so they know where to send their application and dates and all that.
Okay, I look for a motion.
I make a motion, we approve the request and review of the posting for full-time firefighter, paramedic as as Doug Stein requested on this one.
Okay.
I asked him to do that for me.
I can put Chief Keen if you want. Whatever you guys want. I'm just going by.
Support.
That works.
Okay, motion supported by Mr. Gore. Any more discussion?
Is it marked as two?
It's marked as Doug Stein.
As two positions? I didn't know if the motion said two.
For a full-time firefighter, paramedic, and then NRC, it's two positions.
This is just a post it. Then they'll come back with
Okay.
the two they choose.
Okay. Could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Ms. Janasek?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
One quick thing, could you just really briefly discuss to the community where we're at with advanced life support and what we're doing now? I've gotten calls that somebody drove themselves to the hospital because they were concerned about time-wise. Could you explain to the community a little bit, what that means to the community that we went to advanced life support?
So the fire department, Chief Massengill was able to get ALS approval, advanced life support approval through the state of Michigan. And so we have to provide at least one paramedic on duty 24/7. And we're a backup support to the Monroe County ambulance system. So when we're dispatched to calls, hopefully we get at least one paramedic there within the quick time frames. And then MCA is also dispatched with us. Now, MCA is having, issues just like everybody else is. So when they're not available, we're able to transport those patients, ALS or BLS, basic life support, depending on the condition of the patient. But it's our goal to have one paramedic on duty 24/7, hopefully two paramedics on duty every day, but the goal is at least one.
So basically what you're saying is you're better off to call 911 when you're having a life-threatening situation because Bedford Township or MCA will be there within minutes.
Yes, sir.
Roughly 6.
Yep.
So, that's huge for the community. And part of the problem that, we are having with some of our, firefighters that aren't full-time, volunteer firemen, they'll get to the fire department and they're already en route, right?
Yes, sir.
They're already gone. So, that's a good thing. We're having quicker responses because of this. And we're not trying to overstep MCA's toes. We're just trying to fulfill a need. And that was to get on scenes quicker and be able to go to work on patients right away. So I just want the community to know that and to know we're fulfilling that.
Yep.
So that's why partially we're here tonight to keep it rolling. So thank you very much.
Hope.
And by the way, Chief King has been amazing.
Thank you.
His weekly updates, even though I told him it's not fully necessary, for you to have to worry about doing that, but he's been great to work with, and I know, so your whole staff has been, so thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Okay. Okay, item 8F, discussion on maintenance and possible purchase of Indian Creek Park. Dr. Carl, if you'd like to come on up for this discussion. We have met a few times on this, had multiple phone calls. You guys had a discussion on it at your last meeting. I know some residents showed up and who had interest of purchasing it. So kind of give us your take of where you're at.
Yeah, so a couple quick points of clarification. We house our buses there. We don't have a junkyard at Indian Creek. We have 46 buses in our fleet. We are in the 99.3rd percentile for bus and transportation safety inspections for MSP, so we do an incredible job. And we have 10 new buses that are on our fleet too, so just clarification. The second piece is that I don't have a price set for Indian Creek because it's not for sale, quite frankly. If somebody such as the Parks Board or the township were interested, we would take an offer. But it's not listed because we don't have to sell it. I am very interested in getting clarified and updated current leasing agreements. We do have several entities that oversee parts of the park. Bedford Public Schools, as a district, does own the park. However, we do have a walking park or walking trail that the township put in through a grant, I believe, 22 years ago. That lease has ended about 2 years ago. And we also have some agreements with maintenance that expired sometime in the last 20 years, I believe, prior to my arrival. I think 2001 may have been the last time I saw board minutes as well, Trudy. Yeah, we've had a loose agreement, and it clearly isn't working. We've had some issues with mowing, both on our end and what the township has been doing, even out of agreement. However, we believe we can strengthen the proposal. Bedford Public Schools is willing to take it on itself. We will take it over completely. We will run it as a school parcel. I don't know what that looks like in terms of walking trail. I think based on my time over there the last 2 weeks, an awful lot of community members enjoy that park. There is a sign in front that says Bedford Township Parks. So at one point it was considered a park for Bedford Township. I think that there is some opportunity to continue partnering and strengthening our community education program. You know, community ed's it's an oddity. So most communities that have community ed have a community millage to support community ed. Our program, it does not have a revenue stream outside of fees. Bedford Public Schools, no school district can use school dollars, K-12 public school dollars, to fund community ed. I think that's a misnomer that not everyone understands that. So while we house them in our facility in kind, we allow them to use our facility for basketball in kind. We allow them to use our parks. We don't charge them. They pay for any custodial or any maintenance that they utilize, but they're a part of the district in the sense that we are their fiscal responsibility agent. We don't control them. They have their own director. If there's an opening for director, our cabinet gets together, has a team. We interview for a new director, and that person then takes over. So if you look back at the last 40 years of contracts between the schools, the township, 3B baseball, whomever helped create these parks, there was a lot of help from the community to help put this together. The ballparks that are there, I believe there's 8 diamonds. The district did not pay for those, while we do maintain them, albeit not as well as we do our K-12 sports programs. But we don't have K-12 sports programs playing on those parks. But I do believe that we can do it better, and I just think that we need to sit down and just figure out what portion of the township and the Parks Board would like to have a part of that. Whether it's the walking trail only, and there's a partnership, or just the lease agreement for helping to maintain the mowing costs and the brush and weed trimming, or there is a parking agreement to help maintain the parking lot. At one point, the last agreement that I have says that the Parks Board should be given $50,000 annually to the district. We've only received $25,000 annually for at least, I think, the last 8 years. So, I mean, I'm at the pleasure of the township. I'm not, and I will say it again, the district's mission is to educate pre-K-12 students. That's by law, that's our mission, but I'm also not willing to allow our community of over 30,000 residents not have a place that I think is valuable to them. So we'll do what we can to partner.
So I'm going to make it really simple for the board. There's a couple options here. I do think with the right structure in place and the right agreement in place, we could do something, make something that works. Dr. Crowell and I work on a regular basis on multiple items, and it works very well. I don't agree with the proposal from Mr. Chasman to purchase everything, because that's not an option. Okay, there's an option to purchase what I have laid out here and highlighted. If the board wants to go that direction, so we have something that we own and that we can put township dollars in, and ARPA funds, and make it something really special for the community, because it really is one of the only places where you have where community ed can do soccer and have multiple ball fields, okay? Or the other option is we enter into an agreement to maintain the track for the next 20 years. We continue to maintain the track and have doggy bags, put the doggy bags. Or we enter into an agreement where we maintain the whole thing. What's the pleasure of the board? Because the problem is over the years, there's multiple different agreements that have expired, and we're trying to do the best we can to keep it nice. But Dr. Carl is right. The community thinks it's a Bedford Township park. They have for years, and it is one of the most used parks probably for dogs and walking and ball, and it gets used a ton. So it would be beneficial for the schools if the township kept it, if we bought it, because they could continue to utilize it still for their cross country and all the sports that run, and so that's my thought. I just need some direction of what we want to do. What's the desire, Ms. Januzak?
I am okay with maintaining just the walking trail. I am not in favor of purchasing the property. One, we are having a hard time keeping up with our current parks that we have. Two, if we're going to spend money on a park, I would rather put it in the current parks we already have. Mm-hmm. We've been trying with the equipment and maintenance. How many years have we been talking about Anstead Park? Nothing, we can't do anything with the Anstead Park because we don't have any funds. I do not agree with purchasing a piece of property that we clearly don't have the maintenance department. Yeah, we do have them, but they're already stretched as it is. I'm okay with the walking trail, coming to an agreement on that, but the whole property, I'm not in favor of.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Yeah.
Ms. Hirschberger?
Just to clarify what Carl was talking about, the 50,000, there is an agreement that the Park Commission would give Community Ed 50,000, but with a written letter, that amount could be changed. The Park Commission, a few years back, well, it's been more than a few, changed that amount to 25. So we've only been giving 25,000. If we had a millage, maybe we could afford more, but we can't. So that's how much they've been giving Community Ed. Again, I agree. We have so many parks now that are lacking maintenance. There's so many things this park board would like to do in our parks that we can't afford to do now. Taking on another one, I just can't see how we could afford that. It would all come out of our general fund. They don't have a millage, so we're depleting our general fund to do anything. I do agree. We got the park board years ago, got this grant. They put in this walking trail. I think we owe it to the schools to at least maintain this walking trail that we put on their property. That would be the only thing I would agree to, though, is to continue that, the maintenance of that.
Thoughts from other board members? Mr. Gore?
So like Mr. Mann was stating, that 37 acres on the north side, and I've coached out there for years and years past with Mr. Mann. We play a lot of soccer. We have a lot of kids involved in soccer.
Joe, you got to talk.
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I getting yelled at by George yet?
You will be.
But the conditions out there are deplorable between the moles, the dandelions, the hills. It's not a flat surface whatsoever. When they mow, we've seen the nets get cut. We've seen just, then people leave some trash out there. It just gets all blown out to where we lose a lot of kids that go to Sylvania Rec. I've played over there with my kids before. We have numerous kids that play Sylvania United, Pace Setter, Mommy Express, including my own. We go down there for the facilities. They're much nicer. The grass is well kept. The weeds are down. It's maintained. But again, it all goes back to money. Where's the money coming from? A lot of those places have park millages and stuff like that, which we do not have. So if something needs to be done, yes. As far as the walking trails, yes, I've walked out there, been out there with cross-country runs and watched those, but something needs to be done with the whole part of the property to maintain that, in my opinion. And whether it be a partnership, whether it be between us, the school, the parks, but something better needs to be done for the whole area.
And that's the part where I agree with Chaz at is who's going to stick the large amount of money in and to flatten it, to where it needs to be, and to spray for the weeds, and to, you know what I mean? That would have to be an agreement.
it's gonna
If
be
you want
expensive.
something nice for the community, and like what Dr. Carl said, it's not really his job. It's K through 12,
Well,
so.
it's the chicken or the egg. You mentioned Pacesetter. I mean, amazing facilities. I don't know what you pay per child, Joe. It's significantly more than I believe the $68 our families are paying. You're getting what you're paying for. And unfortunately, it doesn't help maintain the facilities. It doesn't help get the top of the line equipment, and we need to do some reorganization ourselves and with community ed and help them. And I've committed to doing that myself to help do an analysis of what other programs are charging, so that we can be not only competitive but also that we can improve our facilities. The last agreement for the walking trail, I think, was to maintain the trail itself, and it was for $1 a year. Does that sound right, Trudy?
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to cut it. I mean, we have to mow the grass. We have to do something in the parking lot. It's it's Divot Central over there. So, if the township board and the parks board wants to simply lease and give us a annual lease payment so that we can maintain it ourselves, I think it's best that one entity is in charge. Because right now we're all getting beat up, and maybe it's social media beat up, but nonetheless, I don't mind taking a beating when it's my fault and I have something to do with it. But when we're all sitting here taking darts from community that are concerned, and rightfully so, it's not fair to any of us. So let's figure out what it's going to take. Let's get it done. If it's Bedford Public Schools, and I believe my board, and I speak for them, but I'm of course not them. Our board has an appetite to keep it, maintain it, but it's going to take leases. And once we do that, then we can lease out to other organizations that want space as well. So the south side of the creek, I cannot sell. I need to have a safety egress from the district. So that's our safety road coming out. If there were ever an emergency, I have to be able to open that road and get cars out of there. So can't sell it. Our bus garage is there. I don't plan on moving it as long as I'm here. So we want to make some updates to it, but we need to keep that south end for the district.
So that's I can't agree more with that. I think it's one entity's probably best. Who's better? I don't know. You know what I mean? So the board needs to decide, do we want to continue moving in a direction to purchase it, or but Mr. Mike.
So I'm really glad all of this is coming to however it's come about where it's seeming like it actually is needing to be dealt with. I'm of the impression, and have been for a very long time, that Indian Creek is the biggest wasted piece of potential in our entire township, and it's sad because it should be a shining beacon that brings families and I think that we have on our in our agenda only Indian Creek, but to the west of that is all White Park, and those two together are dead center in our township and should be the envy of every other neighboring township or city or village, in my opinion. The solution is another thing. Now, to get to a decision or to solve anything, this is the first I have heard about the north-south split of that being two separate things. So I haven't had any thought. That's the first that I've heard that at all. So that's kind of I'm a little blindsided with that as far as my own thought process goes, as far as what is a possible solution with everything. Side question: if, say, we did something like that, you did a north-south split, school kept the south. It's not for sale, I know, but like if we bought the north and you kept the south, would community ed be exclusively usage of the south side then and not the north side? Is that how that would go hypothetically?
Unless they entered an agreement with the owner. Yeah.
Okay. Because and like I see your little like pathway, and I said is the last 5 minutes I've been trying to think about. Well, yeah, how do you do that, and how do you split it up? Because
There's
And I don't know if
there's
that's
a path to keep one driveway separate for the school district and our buses on the south side. It would probably take some retaining wall or some decorative wall of sorts to guide individual community members through the north drive, just going back there. I don't think it's not impossible, I'll say. But at the same time, it would be difficult to split, but it's not impossible.
And I believe I understand the concern as far as finances go on a project like this, specifically upfront and long term, especially when you're already stretched a little thin as far as maintenance goes and that kind of thing. That's some hours just to mow it and keep it so it's not a hay field at the very least, let alone try to keep something to be soccer field and play ready. That's a lot of time on a lot of property for all of that. But I think we have ARPA funds that I would be in full support of pushing toward this this is a benefit to the entire township as a whole and our community as a whole, as well as I'm convinced that properly presented with a good millage, I believe our community would support a millage to fund this and other parks if it were properly presented. And like that, I believe our community would support that. As far as the financial concerns go, I still think that there's a ton of figuring as far as who's running what and what, getting into the weeds though, I think at that point. But yeah, I guess part of my concern is losing it for, well, you said the amount of community members that already use it as is. I don't want to see it to go the way of, oh, no, you can't. That's like the same thing as using, like, just showing up to. I've heard like people going and playing next door, kids playing basketball and getting yelled at, like, technically you're not supposed to be out there, like that kind of thing. To have it open for the community. But so I'm definitely in favor of it. But like I said, as far as details, this is the first I've been presented as it being split, and I'm kind of blindsided with that. I want to put more thought into it. And
there wasn't, we had discussions, there wasn't a ton of information. It's what, we have an issue, what direction would the board like to go? Would we like for Carl and I to have more discussions on what a purchase would look like? Or do we want to have legal look at what it would look like to have an agreement together for maintenance? You know what I mean?
I'd love it to.
That's what I'm.
I'd love it to go the route of sticking as it is, and yeah, like it's kind of a like what Chaz said. It's kind of a happy-go-lucky. Yeah, we can make all this work, but it's just the nature of these type of things. It's like the old Lions Den building or community ed. It's like we have these different entities in this township that are 5 different people are involved and in charge and responsible, which means no one's responsible. And it's just the nature of those types of situations that it's probably a blessing that it's lasted and went as well as long as it has, considering. So you'd think that, yeah, that'd be nice. And I feel like I would want to lean that way, except for that I'm convinced that I don't think long term that is going to be a real solution to anything more than we can keep the grass cut. Not we're keeping it up and it's nice, because this should be a nice place. I'm convinced White Park and Indian Creek should be how you talk about pace setter. I believe they should be places in our community that young families come through and go, man, that's real. This is really, really nice. It's a short drive over there, and it's beautiful. And this is where we want to set our family up.
And unfortunately, that's not the board's vision. The vision. Well, it's not. I'm not saying it's not our vision. I'm saying that's got to be the park board's vision. The park board has sole authority over our parks boards. We have no say And what happens at White Park or Carr Park or Onstead Park? So I mean, that's on them. They want a millage. They want to do certain things. They want to go for certain things. They want to purchase the property. They do need to go for, what I mean?
I also know,
it's
like,
not going to happen just with us giving them $140,000 a year.
Having a unionized maintenance department also ties hands for community involvement, for getting communities involved, community members who want to volunteer their time, money, resources. I know that is a hindrance at the very least. Maybe it's not
for the township. For the township, they fill out a form, and we work with Pat to make sure it's something that he's okay with, and he's always willing to let volunteers, and it's always been a seamless thing. I mean, cleaning up the parks, and there could be an issue, where we're taking people's jobs, but
hardly.
But we don't do that. Every time I've talked to him, it was, it's not an issue. So, Mr. Steiner?
I guess my take, to simplify it, I'm not opposed to discussions and seeing what the possibilities are, but with what we've got before us today, we can't do anything. I mean, we need to find out, even if we decided to do just the trail, okay, what's that cost going to be to the township? We have to get an amortization schedule together, find out what our annual costs are there. All right, let's look at the area with the 6 diamonds up there. Okay, what that portion alone right there, what does it cost? How many hours does it take? What's it cost to maintain it, fertilize it, everything else? Same thing with the northeast portion, the biggest portion there. Again, the maintenance, the dollars. You need dollars before all this stuff. And I mean, Dr. Schultz will tell you that before anything. I mean, he's the numbers guy at the schools, and he's got to have his ducks in a row before he presents. So
I can tell you what it would cost. We don't do our lawn mowing. We have a service agreement with a local company, so I can only tell you what we would pay through our service agreement with some quotes. But I mean, there are clearly fees. It's twofold. It's one, to maintain it, but also to get it to the point where it needs to be maintained. And Paul's right. It is significantly nicer this week or last week than it was, let's say, 3 weeks ago. The diamonds are cleaned up. They have been sprayed. We had some folks show up with lawnmowers who wanted to help. It's a school-owned property. Our liability insurance company does not allow that. If someone were to cut themselves, that is a lawsuit that we cannot win, nor do I want anybody to get hurt out there. So we are obligated to have a bonded, insured company to do that. I appreciate the assistance, but it's different than like getting a pile of rocks moved around. It's daily, weekly maintenance, upkeep. So whoever's going to control it just needs to get it up to par. That's just where I think it's looking good and safe. Not spectacular, but first phase first, and then a real maintenance schedule where dedicated funds are applied to it. Schedules, they're according to what sports schedules or park schedules are going on. But it really is a multifaceted, phased out plan. But I mean, the district is willing to work with each other. We have other partnerships. We partner on liaison officers. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities to do something. It's just I think we just need to figure it out and get there so that we all stop being targeted, because it needs to be done.
So, and again, Mr. Steiner, this is the beginning stages. That's why it's here.
Yeah.
So my point of tonight was not to have really much tangible, just to say, hey, what direction do you want to go? These two have a pretty clear direction. They're willing to maintain the track. Dr. Carl would rather have it just be one entity, it sounds like. So I'm not so sure that's even an option just for us to lease the track. If we're going to take it on, it sounds like, we either need to purchase it, and move on it with ourselves, or we let Dr. Carl take it over.
And if you look back in the history, the ball diamonds were created at not only that park, which was called Indian Creek Park before we had it, but the ball diamonds were put in here, all our other parks, and all the schools. Elementary schools. And then, excuse me, all these entities who did that signed that they would take care of the ball diamonds. I don't know what happened to that.
Yeah, there was multiple companies that stepped up
I mean,
many
this-
years ago.
This was the original agreement.
a
It's
thick
not
one.
signed.
Yeah.
I can't find a signed one.
Well, I've been here
But it
5 years
talks
and
about all of
no one
it.
has come forward to take care of their diamonds, so.
No.
We've been.
Mm-hmm.
There's
we've
no
been
signs
doing
on 'em
it, and
either.
It's along,
No.
along with the township, I'll say we've been sort of doing it, to be honest. But it's a long history of piecemeal programs and partnerships together that were really good ideas at the time. That when it's structured like that, though, there's no real accountability in the end. So whether Bedford Public Schools continues to own it, take care of it, and the township would like to sign a lease agreement that we would take care of the track or the walking track, and just have a monetary value signed to that annually, if that's what the board's pleasure is, I think our board would agree to that and move forward. If there were an offer on the table to purchase it, and I don't know what the value of the property is. I've talked to some brokers, different opinions on what kind of buildable land it is. It's zoned residential currently. I'm not sure what that looks like. I know there are condos in the front section of it, so that we sold off that land some time ago. But at this point, our primary focus is to continue to have it a park available for our community, kids to use, families to go to. It's just how are we going to maintain it so that it's adequate, and I guess even better than adequate, it's worthy of going to.
Okay, so what's the pleasure of the board? What direction would you like me to take at this time? I'd like, Mr. Bruni, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I mean,
do you have a
not
direction?
in favor of purchasing it.
Okay.
At the very least, it would be maintain the walking track.
Okay, Mr. Steiner, are you in
Not in
favor at
favor
all
of
direction of purchase? Okay, so
Not
purchasing's off the table.
Yep.
Okay, so
I was hoping to purchase it, but I guess I'm just one person, so
I'm
I'm out.
honestly, I'm in favor of purchasing as well, but it's the reason being is I think the township could take it and make it something really nice.
Right.
Go from Dr. Carl's not going to be going for millages for that park. You know what I mean? He can't legally. So I mean, and there's no guarantee that it stays that park forever. With the township, there is. You know, we maintain it. We are maintaining it now. The reason it's tough, because we've had a tough season. Our guys started later than usual. We had a rainy season. We had funerals that we had to deal with. It was just a tough season. That's why some of the parks were let go the way they were. So, you know, it's not like that every year. You know, what we need to do is be more proactive and hopefully the park board can start spraying these parks for weeds, because most of the time what we're doing is cutting weeds.
That's
you
all
know,
you're
so
putting out there. Dandelion.
Dandelions. So once you kill the weeds, you know, I mean, you know, so. But so does the group have a desire to move forward in any type of lease, or?
Not without numbers.
Yeah, we need some more discussion.
Well, I got to have a direction though of what you want me to bring back though. Is it numbers on what it costs to maintain it? Is it, you know, what a lease would look like with Dr. Carl? You know, I mean, because it can be many
we
options.
also have to get with our park board.
the
We
park
also
board-
have to get with the maintenance department, because like you said, he said, we can't even maintain what we have now. And if you throw that on their plate, they can't.
It's already on their plate. They're already maintaining it.
Which is
So why
hard.
is our
They've
park
been-
being again then? That's why everyone was complaining about Car Park.
That's part of the reason this year is because the diamonds weren't up to snuff, and we did put a few guys on there to get them up to snuff because they had a busy weekend with them. So,
But actually, that should be community ed taking care of the ball diamonds,
but
not the township.
part of the reason is they probably can't maintain them is because we cut $25,000 off their budget as well.
But we did that years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've been maintaining them along with the schools for years too.
No, not the diamonds. We've only been doing the diamonds for maybe a year.
Either way, I need some sort of direction of what the board would like to do. So, because as of right now, we are cutting it. We are maintaining the trail. Last week we did maintain the ball diamonds because they were too far gone. So we scraped them up and got them up to snuff, and that's why we're going to continue. We're going to continue doing what we're doing until I get a direction, unless the board tells me tonight to stop maintaining it.
We don't have a contract to maintain it. Why are
No, we don't.
maintaining?
We've been doing it for 20 years without a contract, though. So, That's why I'm here, to clean it up.
Because we did it in the past doesn't mean we.
No, you're right.
Doesn't mean
So,
it's
so make a
right.
motion for me to stop maintaining it then tonight, and we won't touch it again. If that's what you want. So, I mean, I came into this where we're doing a certain thing, and so we've continued that. Now, we've tweaked it quite a bit. It's not the same as it was, but either way, we're working right now with no contract. The only one working with a contract with is the park board, because they pay community ed. That's the only contract in place. So, any more thoughts?
Heard more from my direction.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Moving on to comments from the public. Comments limited to.
No, you had.
Oh yeah, we got 8G. Oh gosh.
New holiday.
New holiday.
New
Well, it's not
holiday
new.
coming up.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let me get my. Okay, so where are we at? You got the.
Here, you can use mine.
Oh, that's not. I'm looking for the actual Juneteenth one. I know I got it right here. Okay. So last year we closed Township Hall. Trudy, was it a half day or full day?
Half day because it passed at noon.
Okay, because it passed in. If the board wants to recognize a holiday celebrated on June 19th to commemorate the emancipation of enslaved people in the U.S., the holiday was first celebrated in Texas, where on that date in 1865, in the aftermath of the Civil War, slaves were declared free under the terms of the 1862 Emancipation Proclamation. So, I'm wondering if the board wants to continue as we did last year to have the day off as a holiday, and the same thing, I'm not sure if the board wants to move with Columbus Day on October 10th as well.
Juneteenth was recognized as a federal holiday.
It is recognized as a federal holiday.
So
I
it's
think
Columbus
our
Day.
Columbus
But
Day.
Michigan just made it a holiday, correct? Yes.
Would you say last year was half, or would you say, Trudy?
it passed as a federal holiday right before noon or something like that.
okay,
So
so it
we
should
closed
be a
down
full
as
day.
noon. It should be a full day. The state of Michigan recognizes that as a federal holiday now.
I'll make a motion that we close Township Hall for Juneteenth on June 19th
Support.
this year and for further years as well. Make it a part of our, every year. Motion supported by Mr. Bruning. Discussion. Seeing none, could you call the roll?
Mr. Peroni?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
No.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Jandasek?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
And the motion passed 6-1. And is there any interest in Columbus Day?
Arbor Day? Flag Day?
No.
Those are federal holidays.
These are federal.
Yeah, federal.
Close up?
Yeah, I'm just putting it on here because it's been,
The employees have been asking us, so we said we would have to take it to the board. We can't just,
Right.
what's the pleasure of the board with Columbus Day?
I thought everything was closed on Columbus Day, just,
Is it? Yeah.
Banks are closed.
Okay. Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. We observe the federal holiday, Columbus Day, and close for a full day that day also.
Support.
Okay, motion supported, Mr. Gore. Discussion? Okay, seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Nay.
Ms. Jandasek?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 6-1. Okay, all right, on number 9, comments from the public. Comments limited to 2 minutes. Come on up. They're racing up here.
Thank you.
You can just
Oh, you got two.
Here, we'll pass them down.
Thank you.
There you go.
pass one down.
All right, thank you.
My name's Mary Jo Hamill. I live at 2174 Stirrup Drive in Temperance. I first of all want to say that my husband and I are new to this local government thing, and we've been learning a lot the last couple of months coming here. We both want to thank you all. It is amazing to us how much you study and put into your own time and effort into running our township, so we're very appreciative of that. That being said, I want to call your attention to something that I haven't heard here much, or at all actually, concerning election integrity. My husband and I have both been very closely watching audits and hearings and all of that, watching what they are finding out through election fraud. One of the biggest things that we're seeing are reports on the Dominion, excuse me, voting machines that are prone to tampering with. This report, this is the first time I've been able to have something printed out that has data on it of things that were actually found in the Dominion voting machines. This came from Mesa County. The clerk had a forensic audit done. She took pictures of the Dominion machines after the voting, and then when Dominion came in, they were supposed to do some maintenance. She took some pictures after their maintenance. When she hired an auditor to come in to compare the two records, they didn't just do maintenance, they wiped out the election records. So that being said, I want to make a couple of points that she brought out. That in both elections, after vote counting was underway, thousands of ballots had already been counted, were secretly reprocessed in the voting machines. Also, in violation of federal law, the machine had internal Wi-Fi, and this is being found all across our country in these machines. Okay, I'm just asking that you form a committee and investigate this.
Okay, thank you for your comment.
I can comment at my time.
She could comment and touch on that as well.
Okay.
Or if you'd like to give your husband the rest of it, he can read the rest of it. Okay. Any more comments?
Carol Laurie, 1617 Royal Troon Court, Temperance, and I am the chair of the park board this year. I would just like to say any discussions that you have with Dr. Carl, we would like to be included in. We're very much in favor of purchasing Indian Creek Park. We understand that we don't have the funding together to do it. I think when I present it to the board, they'd be willing to go for a millage. Of course, that's going to take time, but something we can keep in mind and work towards in the future. So if the board wanted to consider purchasing the park and then we'd get the millage to maintain it, something like that, we could work out. Yeah, I don't know. But I just wanted you to include us in the picture and in the discussion so that we can try to move forward. I'd love to include the woods in this, but again, I've got to talk to Dr. Carl about that and see if that's something. But, you know, if they divide it north and south with that driveway so he can keep it open to the school, we'd be willing to purchase the woods behind the library and up to the junior high. That's a jewel as far as I'm concerned in our community. We don't have woods where people can walk in. That's it. We got a little bit at Anstead, a little bit at Wheeler, but this is a big area that would be wonderful to keep for everybody in the township. So, okay, that's all I got to say.
In Biden's economy, I don't think any millage is passing.
Gail Kane, 1056 West Temperance. We have a paramedic who's being paid the same amount of money as the guy that's fixing our lawnmowers. So I would like somebody to tell me what the benefits are worth. We did have millages for the parks. People didn't care enough, and they voted them down. So that's what needs to happen, is to have another millage. The park board members are duly elected, and they should be meeting with the school board, along with our liaison, Todd Bruning. There's too much everybody else running around behind other people's back and having conversations. That's got to stop. The park boards are duly elected. They need to be meeting with the school. Todd's the liaison, and that's that. And they should come up with something. But they do need to have a millage and possibly cover their own maintenance people. The ground has to be equal and even for the kids to play properly and safely. I can provide a fully transparent timeline of issues regarding Mulch King, and it is unbiased. It is the truth. And check with the library, the trails in the woods. There's a lot of issues back there. There's problems with the kids and the activities that take place back there in that woods. So you have to be very, very careful with that. There is some concerns there. The other question I have is vehicles being used for non-township issues outside of this township, such as Lansing, for endeavors that are not actually, and I believe that's a misuse of public funds. So if somebody can talk to that, I'd be happy to hear. Thanks.
Nobody I know has taken a vehicle to Lansing as a township vehicle, so we're unaware of that accusation. Any more comments from the public?
Josh Nearcore, 7948 Wiseman Road, Lambertville, about the parks and stuff. Obviously, right now is not a good time to do it. They can't keep up with their own maintenance on the other parks. If they can't mow grass, they're digging graves. Not a good time to buy it. Honestly, we need a park millage to fund park maintenance and upkeep with all our parks. I think a lot of the community would support the millage if knowing that what's going to go into it and that there's going to be transparency and that jobs are going to get done and completed. Also, the money include those millages to cover maintenance people. Maybe not just township guys, but local landscape companies that are within the township that would like to take the contract to keep up with park maintenance and stuff, such as mowing, weeding, all that stuff. And then as far as like making all these plans, what we're going to do with this and that, it needs to be a whole community effort. It's schools meeting, township meeting, park board. It's got to be all conducive together, like a unified, span of control kind of thing. Everybody together, not just community doing this, that. It's got to be together to make it functional. That's all I really have to say about it. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments?
Jeff King, 692 Seminole Trail. First and foremost, thank you to the board for the expository discussion you had regarding the maintenance worker and the increase provided to him. I'm very pleased to see that we will retain him and our staff will not suffer a deficit as a result of this. I do not want anyone to think that I have any animosity or ill will with Mr. Walters. I have talked about retaining him and keeping him since he came on as a seasonal employee. He does great work. I did not want you to think I was up here with sour grapes because I didn't get something that he did. That's not who I am. I don't care about that. I'm here for the job. I'm here to do the work that I've been asked to do. And I will continue to do that because that is what I made and that is the trust that 5 of you put into me. Joe, you weren't at that meeting. I also would like to say, for Indian Creek and who uses it and who doesn't use it, there are signs on the backstops that say specifically that you need to contact the park commission in order to use the fields to answer any problems or questions that may arise from that. Those are old signs that have been dusted over and are peeling off, but they are there. I can also tell you that our cut start date this year was April 19th. We worked on going through and just knocking everything down at the beginning, but over the first 3 weeks, our 3-man seasonal cut crew was essentially 2 guys with 1 guy out on a rotational basis. And then we had the rain after we cut it. It's hard to get ahead of the rain, and I think you all are aware of that. So please don't hold that against us. We still want to do what we do for the township. We don't want it to go away. And I also think it would be beneficial, based on previous comments, for us to look at providing a weed remediation process for the township. 5 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Steiner.
Just real quick, one of the things we talk about all the time, we see things around the country, and I guess one of the biggest things, we always praise our EMS, our firefighters, our police, and everyone, and we pray for their safety. But I think even more, this country needs to pray for the mental health of our entire country. We just had, more incidents in Texas, over in Philadelphia. Chicago is a weekly thing. This is just something that we need to control. I mean, we can't ourselves take care of the whole country, but I think everybody needs to be cognizant of that's the direction I think this country needs to go, is mental health and taking care of people. And it even goes as far as it used to be. Neighbors were neighbors, and now neighbors, oh yeah, he lives next to me. How about periodically you check in on your neighbor? Hey, how you doing? That goes a long way to somebody's mental psyche sometimes, just to walk over and say hello and let somebody know you care about them instead of just, you're just another body living in that house next door. I'm thankful, actually, where I moved recently this last year, that people do talk. People are constantly waving to each other. People constantly visit each other. And, I don't expect somebody to drop by unannounced constantly and bug the heck out of you, but it goes a long way, and I really enjoy that, and I think a lot of other people would too. Back to the parks. Again, I think a purchase would be very difficult of any land to add to the township coffers at this time. Again, maintenance being one of the biggest ones. I've heard a couple of mentions of millages. And as Ms. Keene stated earlier, that there used to be park millage, and it went by the wayside because the voters said no. I don't know if I don't think they didn't necessarily care about it. I think they got to the point that said, we're not going to spend any more money. And I don't know how many times we've sat here, especially during budget meetings over the last, I'll say 20 years, because I've been here 20 years, and people are saying, my God, another millage, another millage, another millage. Why don't you guys get your head together and stagger them out? Well, it doesn't work that way, because when millages are started and they're voted on, that's when they start. But to their point is, a lot of people are always saying, it's another millage. I already pay this, I pay that. And right now, with the current economy, the way it's headed, honestly, I don't see any relief coming for the rest of this year, and hopefully maybe we'll get lucky in mid 2023 that we see some relief in our economy. But I think to try to talk millages these days, people right away are going to shoot that down, and we also need to be very careful. We don't want to affect especially our fire department millage, and we don't want to affect our police millages. Those are two of the most important things. Not that parks aren't important, but those are two of the most important, because those are what protect each and every one of us every single day in this community. So we want to be real careful when we talk about that. So if that does come down, if the park decides to do that someday, just make sure you're not trying to go after a millage at the same time as one of the other millages. And also just be cognizant of, okay, this millage, each one, how much is every taxpayer already spending? Because it gets tough, especially when you start to hear our population in Bedford Township, it's not getting younger, it's getting older. And you hear about fixed incomes a lot more. So, and I can tell you right now, that was probably one of the biggest hits to the park as well, is that millage probably went down because a lot of people hitting that age of fixed income. So I know I'll get there someday, and I think everyone on this board will get there too, unless you've got some miracle that keeps you from getting there.
They love those pickleball courts, though, right?
So that's all.
Okay, Mr. Montreal?
No comment from me.
Mr. Gore?
Just everybody have a good couple weeks, and just to let the rest of the board know, I will not be at the next meeting. I'll be on vacation. I'll be down south.
Ooh, nice.
Mr. Bruning?
Everybody have a good weekend. Also, as far as the park board, our meetings are open to the public. We have them at Car Park, 7 p.m. Next one is going to be the 13th. So 13th, 7 p.m., Car Park, if anyone wants to come. It's in the little building.
Is there a reason you guys don't have them at Township Hall and have them videotaped?
The board does not want to. I've asked them.
I mean, then people could watch from home like they do with these meetings, and a lot more people could be involved.
Bring what they want back to you
guys should think about doing that.
Hey.
Okay, Ms. Januzak?
Their call.
I just want to let people know I'm going to be starting to print tax bills. I know nobody wants to hear that, but I am going to be starting to print tax bills in the next couple of weeks. If you have purchased a home, sold a home, refinanced, please let my department know so that way we can make sure that your bill is going to the proper place. If you do not have a mortgage company, please let me know, because the biggest issue I have is tax bills coming back, and I don't know where to locate people. So please notify me if there are any changes, and everyone have a great week.
Okay, Ms. Hirschberger?
I guess I'll start answering some of the questions on this Dominion voting machines. I'm not sure what kind of machines they use by Dominion, but these do not sound like the same machines we use here. No, because for one, we don't have internet access on our machines. We don't have hard drives on our machines. We have flash drive cards that get programmed. Dominion does not do the maintenance on our machines. We have another company. This other company does the programming with the county, but my test decks are printed from a printer, not anyone that has anything to do with the test decks or the county. It's a separate organization. So if my tests are coming out, they couldn't have messed with them because they don't know what my test deck's going to look like ahead of time. Digitally reproduced ballot. I don't know how they could reproduce a ballot. It counts them. It doesn't produce them. They could be talking about one of our VAT machines, which are voter-assisted terminals, but those only mark ballots. They don't vote ballots, so it can't be that.
Well, hold on, ma'am. If you're going to come up, do you want her to come up, Judy?
It's up to this board.
You two could talk afterwards.
The cards are
There's a public
removed. There's
hearing.
no hard drive. We use flash drives. Again, no hard drives. So I'm not sure what machine. There are different Dominion machines out there. Ours have to be completely different than what Colorado uses. And as far as process of ballots and different secret recounts, if we have a recount, it's got to be paid for by the person who wants the recount to be done for them. And then they choose whether they want it to be a hand count recount or tallied through the machine recount. I've been through both. Neither one is fun. But I don't know how they could program a machine to do it, because that person could say, I want a hand count. And it should come up with that machine. It's really hard with our machines, and I try to explain this in our election class, to mess. When we start out the day, that tape has to show zeros. If there are no ballots processed, there are no ballots shown. So everyone's signing that's zero tape, and I keep that tape, and it's hooked to the next one with all the tallies on it. So there's no way ballots could already be put through. And at the end of the night, the number of ballots that go through that machine have to equal the number of people who walk through and received a ballot. So if I have 365 people that asked for a ballot, I better have 365 that match that machine, or you better be calling me telling me why, because there is going to be an issue then. So I'm very confident in our machines, very much, and I do not think these machines are the same ones we use. But I can talk to you after if you have more questions. On that, applications to vote went out yesterday, so please give them time to reach your house. Once you get that application, send it back, and once we get the absentee ballots, we will send those out to you. We're hoping to have the ballots by the 17th and getting them out by the end of this month. The clerk's department will be closed on June 13th in the afternoon because we all have to attend more election training. Newsletters should be coming out today or tomorrow in the Bedford Press. And an update for the board, we received 2 applications for the fire chief. If you would like to view those applications, I'm asking that you come to the clerk's department and view those. The last time we had fire chiefs, it was stated by our attorney, not Marty, but Phil, that the application should stay with the clerk's department and the board members should come look at them. What I'm asking Kurt and Kathy is to go over the applications and identify if they've met everything in the job description. And if they haven't, to identify what they don't meet, so that we have an understanding of the job description that they have met everything or they don't. My question for the board, and you can call me or shoot me an email, is my idea would be to have them go through them, let me know what they are, email all of you to tell you what they have come up with, and bring both candidates to the next board meeting, although Joe, you won't be here, and interview them both at the same time and choose it that night. As far as the background checks, I would rather not run both because it's going to be a little costly, but we choose one and make it contingent on those background checks coming back, if we choose one, I should say.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say,
If we choose one, right. If everyone's okay with that, that's the way I was going to work it. If you don't, let me know.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good.
And that's all I have.
Okay, so I'm going to make our Indian Creek issue really easy. So I'm not going to maintain Indian Creek anymore. You guys meet with Dr. Carl and figure out a plan of what you want to do moving forward. I'll notify him in the morning, and you can meet with your liaison, and you guys can figure out a plan for the park. That way it's one person working it. You keep me out of it. You know, I want what's best for it too. But too many entities involved, we're going to have an issue again. So it's on you. You want to go for a millage, go for a millage. You want me to help you out, whatever you need, let me know. I'm here for you, but we're not going to maintain it anymore and continue to do this without a contract in place. So if you guys have a desire to do something with it, move forward. If not, the Dr. Carl said they'll maintain it as is. So, okay, I want to congratulate all Bedford seniors on graduating. I want to give a shout out to Bedford Township. It's one of the 84 townships in the state being recognized by the University of Michigan and E-Cities program for entrepreneurship, economic development, and job growth. I want to thank Tim Lake for his work on Bedford Township. A lot of this happens with our partnership with the BDC, the Bedford Business Development. Cutting grass, it was a little bit of an issue this year with manpower, getting things to work right with funerals lining up. It takes away two of our guys. The Jake did break last week. It's up and running now. It's fixed. It was just a pin that sheared, nothing major. There's a lots that can be done with the parks. It is an animal, but one of the things is somehow figuring out, like I know Chaz has brought it up before, killing the weeds. The weeds is what we cut most of the time in the summer. It's not grass, it's weeds. Kill the weeds, you take a lot of the cuttings out, So I want to thank Troy Goodenough for hosting a community gathering. It's nice to see Sheriff Goodenough in our community on a continuous basis. It's just night and day what the Sheriff's Department is doing, the activity, stepping up to the plate in multiple situations, like with the school. We have been meeting, Sheriff Goodenough, myself, and Dr. Carl on what it would look like to partner more with liaisons. I've said it for years. I'd like to see us have the safest schools in the state or the country. And one of the ways of doing that is to have a liaison officer in each school. They have some of the safest security in the school right now. I was in his office last week. He got it up on our monitor. It's unbelievable. It's very nice. So I'm going to be getting some estimates and just some ways that it could look, for us, for the township, and partnering with the schools for liaisons. I'll be bringing that back. I'll be bringing it to the board at some point, but we are having discussions on that. It could look like us going down to 8 on ours and partnering, giving 2 of ours up if we don't lose coverage, and them hiring 1 because they don't have the manpower to just hire 3 this fall. And I would like whatever we do to start in the fall. It's time. Part of our job as the township is the health, safety, and welfare of the community. So I'm proud of the partnership we've had in the past, but I think we need to do more, for the safety of our kids. The Bedford Community Foundation gave $27,000 away to students this year. It's huge. And so students continue to apply for the Community Foundation. They gave away $1,000, and you can continue to get that every year for your whole college career. And then the Strawberry Festival at the Senior Center from 9 to 2 is this Saturday. Samaria Days is what time that'll be happening. So other than that, anybody have any comments, questions?
Yeah, I lied. I have one. We had a laundry list of people working in for election training in our vouchers for payment today, and I just want to say thank you for all those people for getting involved. That's it.
Oh, for sure.
And we need more.
And we need more.
Well, I've said it before. I've said it in my newsletters multiple times. We need volunteers in the community. Things like that. So give us a call. Other than that, we motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, we're adjourned.